Today's video is brought to you by our friends over at ExpressVPN, ladies and gentlemen. With ExpressVPN, one of the exact reasons that I use it is actually conceal my IP address from the internet. ExpressVPN is a simple to use service where all you got to do is open up their application on pretty much any device that supports it and pick from a wide range of servers from all over the world and instantly connect and get blazingly fast speeds and concealment of your IP address anywhere you go, ladies and gentlemen. And which is an important thing for me, given the fact that I have a static IP address, and if it gets leaked out, then anytime I live stream, people can just start DDoSing me. ExpressVPN protects me exactly from that scenario. And you can mask your IP address as well, so you don't need to be masked by any website as well too, and give up more information than you ever needed to give. And with trusted server technology, because everything is RAM-based, my entire session goes completely poof, all the information goes away as soon as those servers go offline. And ladies and gentlemen, with no hard drives to cache anything, you can rest assured that your logs and your information is kept safe from prying eyes. So if you're interested, check out the link below and find out how you can get 3 months free. So to get started, go to expressvpn.com/SOG, ladies and gentlemen. That is expressvpn.com/SOG to get 3 months of ExpressVPN right now for free. That said, let's move on to the video. Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and today we're going to be taking a look at a 4chan video game released 10 years ago that ended up possibly getting a bunch of 4chaners hacked. Ladies and gentlemen, today's video comes from V. Now 4chan is a image board that's quite popular amongst people for its anonymity and the fact that nearly every topic is discussed. Topics that may be too degenerate, too unhealthy for YouTube's TOS, but sometimes the topics can be quite neutral. Like for instance, one of the most popular boards on the site is r/v, which is all about video games. Now on my channel I've primarily talked about posts from Reddit kicked in, 4chan.com/X, which was their paranormal board. Now, video game discussions is not new on the internet, and for 4chan it's always a topic of contrarianism or just really discussing some of the most obscure games that may exist. One of those games was Lostboy. You might have recognized Lostboy from like a 4chan iceberg chart or whatnot, but I found out about this from a post on Reddit 11 years ago. Now on r/creepygaming 11 years ago, a post was made. Warning guys, there's a horror game going around named Lostboy.EXE. It's a backdoor rat that can F everything up. So of course, from a 4chanV's moderator, some users have been posting a link to a file called Lostboy.EXE, which is actually a backdoor rat file. Remote access Trojan, a topic we'll be getting into towards the tail end. Stop downloading and running random exe files like blank and scanning files you open. This is 4chan after all. If you did download that file, check your online accounts, banks, eBay, and take appropriate action. If anyone tells you to download Lostboy.exe, do not do it. Now, this is some very basic advice on the internet, especially from 4chan. Don't download random executable files and launch them. Look, this is why I always preach virtual machines, but even with virtual machines, you can't be 100% safe. So today's video is all about finding this file, running it under a VM myself, in some form of professionalism, and showing you what obscure sides of the internet exist. Now, Lostboy.exe existed underneath another channel. The only gameplay I could find from a time was from a channel known as Saint, also known as Saint Timmy, a channel that has 10,000 subscribers and has been active since 2011. I think the best way to describe Saint's channel is just imagine a video channel, a YouTube channel that's completely buried by the algorithm, one where some of the most obscure games that you may never have heard of exist. Games like Kowloon's Gate. Games like I Want to Kill the Camellia 3. Do you ever want to play a game about the Rapture? Well, ladies and gentlemen, he's got it. And not only does he have it, he's got some commentary on top of it. But remember, one of the most popular videos Saint had uploaded was one titled Let's Play Lostboy. Now, what's important about this video is that it was released around 9 years ago, in 2014. And at the time, this was probably one of the few channels that actually had gameplay of Lostboy. Now, Lostboy was spoken about in 2012, so for a while, at least 2 years, it didn't seem like there was really any gameplay sitting around there. Now, the description of the video is give little girl pills, girl swallows pills, burning sensation in stomach, pills hatch into maggots, stomach infested with maggots. Truly some creepy shit. And while the video is nothing special, it really just showcased Saint walking around. It appeared to be a maze with repeating textures, and sometimes the occasional weird texture that was sitting around. Now, this video, or whatever it was probably the only form of gameplay that existed. And it wasn't until another YouTuber, one known as Felled Up, ended up coming around and reinvigorating actual interest in the topic again. Now, Felled Up is a French YouTuber that actually creates some really amazing content in regards to 4chan stuff, so if you know the French language, definitely check out his stuff. So looking through old 4chan threads, one found one from 2012, around the time of actually uploading this game, Lostboy.EXE. Anyone want a stream of this game? Warning, it may be too deep or too spooky for you. To understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is back then, 2012 speak, so internet was maybe a little bit cringe, but again, this is cringe captured in a time capsule. Now, this gave us a link called mediafire.com/?cat1hbm, and when I looked into this link, obviously the first inkling that I had was, is it still active? And of course, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, it is in fact still active. Don't believe me? Slapping that link into Mediafire gives you a 1.81 megabyte download of lostboy.rar, one that was uploaded 2012-8/23. Which actually lines up really well with that thread we just looked at. Other threads around the time were actually one where it was posted from Anonymous. Alright, I'm a neutral party. I will not say who I am, what I'm from, or who I like. The guy who is doing this uses a nickname Blank. His Steam name is Blank. He's part of Blank, a PNP TG style game group for ridiculous shit. Where they actually reference, if you want to find him, go to chat.mibit.com. Mibit, for those of you who don't know, is a IRC-based chat service where you can connect to nearly a bunch of different chat servers out here and talk with anybody random. So again, IRC Internet Relay Chat, the bread and butter of most live streaming services. But yes, this is how people used to and still do talk nowadays. Sometimes you can even run it in a terminal shell to feel even cooler. But ladies and gentlemen, on these boards is where people started to look for the individual behind Lost Boy. Now, going back to the beginning of that creepy gaming thread that we found on Reddit years ago, there was allegedly a remote access Trojan sitting around. So for a bunch of 4chaners who happened to download this game, they could have actually been infected. Now, remote access Trojans, for those of you who don't know, are really nasty pieces of malware that allow a hacker, an attacker, to grab access to your computer. So to give you a quick visual explanation of how it works, I've got two virtual machines right here. One of them is an attacker and one of them is a victim. The attacker creates a remote access Trojan payload, sends it over to the actual attacker. In this case, it could be a game called Lostboy.EXE. By running this application, you may eventually open up a remote access Trojan to seek into your computer, to hook into your system, and allow the attacker to basically spy on your system. So run keyloggers, see what kind of processes you're looking at, maybe whip out your webcam or record directly off of your microphone. This is truly wild pieces of software, and of course if you've ever been infected by a remote access Trojan, depending on how nasty it can be, removing it may even require you to completely wipe your system and re-image it. Now, I took that Mediafire link, threw it into the old Google, and what was interesting was I found one actual hit from a vast web forum back in August 25th, 2012. So here a user writes, "Hey, I believe I've released a rat virus upon my computer through sheer stupidity. This guy downloaded a 4chan game and ran it on their system without any virtualized container. Absolutely stupid behavior. Anyways, how can I detect this kind of virus?" So they actually link the Mediafire file over here. Unfortunately, they don't ever link the original thread, which is sad, but here they actually showcase that when they put it into VirusTotal, like so, they ended up finding out that it had a Trojan malware sitting around it. Now, to understand, everything here was relatively undetected. One, known as MaxSecure1 vendor, picked it up. And of course, they then scanned it with malware bytes, and they ended up finding out that throughout the situation, they had some anomalies. For instance, registry key HKLM, system current control set, quarantine deleted successfully, and of course, one of the files, msvfd32.exe, contained trojan.clicker.ct. And again, it showcases that if you're on 4chan or Reddit or really any part of the internet, do not download random executable files and launch them. Now, even though I just told you that, I'm going to launch Lost Boy myself, again, entirely underneath a Windows 10 virtual machine. The reason why I'm using this virtual machine and I'm being very careful is my system is very much designed to be securely virtualized. Again, virtual machines are not necessarily even a catch-all. Sometimes malware can break through virtual machines through using various exploits that may not be patched, okay? Sometimes if you don't update your hypervisor software, you may end up actually having a security flaw that could be abused by somebody. Remember, malware can go through virtualized containers. And sometimes if you have ease of access features like shared folders or 3D acceleration, you may end up opening yourself up to some really serious attacks. Again, the likelihood isn't that high, even if it's a game downloaded off 4chan, but you just gotta be careful, okay? All right, so now that we got the PSA out of the way, now all the dangers have been told. I actually got the game here. Now this one is not the one with malware, but I'm just gonna be careful, okay? It's always better to be safe than sorry. So I'm gonna hit start here. I'm gonna launch the game up, and bam, here it is, Lost Boy. Now it starts off in windowed mode, and as you can see, WASD is sort of your move up, left, and right. And there is no enemy, it seems. Nothing so far. So we're going to go walk around, see some oh, wait. Strafing is Q&E. All right, that's pretty cool. So it actually does seem like it plays kind of like Doom. Now, one thing interesting about the map layout, if you look at the decompiled version, it actually says swag. So there is some memery going on into the situation. It's not entirely meant to be, you know, a horror experience. But again, we should be seeing some images show up. It is genuinely just a maze. And there it is, one of the first images. Dad and a baby. Okay, all right. You know, a lot of these nurturing images. And then, of course, you've got the devil, Baphomet, staring me right here. So, you know, just imagine putting yourself into a situation. You know, it's 2 in the morning. You're on some weird thread on 4chan. You downloaded a game and you decided to run it out of your infinite wisdom. And you're starting to see like creepy imagery and this creepy tune just constantly playing in the background. Yeah, I can definitely see some people getting kind of freaked out. See, it's got kind of this backrooms vibe to it, but of course, without the lack of an enemy actually tracking you down and killing you, the sense of urgency isn't there. I mean, I'll be real. Dark, liminal, long hallways like this with repeating textures have their own level of creepiness to them. But again, I was kind of expecting that there would be like a Slender type figure here. There is no Slender-like figure, and again, because the texture work is so repetitive, getting lost in this maze is so easy to do. Aw, heck yeah! Oh, I gotta blur this out, dude. There's like Satan with nipples now. Doesn't even have a head here! Get out of here! Every time, I gotta always be careful. That one Baphomet image where they have like the craziest rack in the world, dude. God, and at least this game does in fact have a sprint functionality. Like, it is very much a Doom clone. Thank God for that. I mean, I'm glad they had the sprint capability, because going down these hallways without the ability to sprint is one of the most annoying things that anybody can do. Now, obviously, the idea of playing this game is to, like, Etrian Odyssey, make the map yourself. Oh, that would fuck with me at 3 in the morning. Get out of here. That's why I'm glad I play these games in the daytime. But of course, the general idea is, as long as you have like a handwritten map, kind of like you're playing old school Metroid, that's a general idea. Or you could just decompile the game and get access to the whole map yourself. But anyways, that's pretty much the depth of this game, ladies and gentlemen. So we're gonna back out and go back to the entire story. Now, of course, it wouldn't be the only time that Lost Boy was shared around, and while a lot of these things seem scary and creepy, I think the actual horror comes out from the Slender era of video gaming. See, back in the day, Slender was a really popular era of, like, you know, independent horror titles, where basically you would have to go around the map, collect 8 items, or whatever item really, and the more you collected, Slender Man, this character, would spawn in randomly and just start creeping towards you. It was a simple game, but I think the horror aspect hit pretty hard. I played tons of Slender games, tons of other YouTubers played Slender games, especially all the horror YouTubers back then too. And generally speaking, it was before FNAF came in, this was pretty much where most of the horror kicked in, especially for that independent horror gaming aspect on YouTube. Now, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this game is not Slender. There is no crazy, creepy character hunting you around. If anything, the game is just a maze, as you've seen, and there are some images that, while they are unnerving, you know, creepy, if you will, eerie, that's pretty much all this game is. It's just creepy imagery that I guess serves as a puzzle that is unsolvable. In fact, if anything, it's just creepy images inside this sewer-like maze. That's all Lost Boy really is. I mean, what the hell did you expect out of 2 megabytes? One of the other posts that I found out was from 2017. Lost Boy wasn't exactly the most mainstream thing on 4chan, but generally there were people who put it up in the obscured games threads, right? So for instance, be it weird, spooky, or downright nonsensical, post them. And of course, one of them was Lost Boy. And of course, Lostboy.EXE, ladies and gentlemen, was actually linked with that original file right here. Should you panic? I don't think so. It wouldn't be the only mention here either. There were other boards like r/SadSatan, which if you don't remember that was a pretty controversial dark web video game. They actually talked about Lost Boy as well. Hey, just heard about SadSatan. I would like to share some information for anyone doing research, especially into the malware. The distribution is remarkably similar to that of Lostboy.EXE. There's some information about it online, but it was rather a short-lived Chan incident, and it's probably hard to distinguish exactly what happened from obscure Google results. Late August in 2012, an independent game developer uploaded a game called Lost Boy to V. Apparently it was a pretty dumb little maze exploration similar to SadSatan, playing up a spooky or weird angle. The first file was apparently fine, which is the game that we played. However, the actual bit of lost media is interesting. However, it was reposted by another user who decided to screw with the file and include a backdoor rat. This threw V into a shitstorm. According to an admin post, there were confirmed reports of bank accounts being compromised. Again, I have no real evidence to prove that because I never saw the threads or spoke to any of those moderators. The hacker in this case was pretty impish and not being very subtle. He definitely was posting on V for a brief period. He showed screenshots of him hijacking webcams and fucking around with users. For example, there's one screenshot where he popped up an alert box into some guy's computer with the text, "The drop-off has been made. You've been warned," alongside his reaction via his webcam. He posted some girl's webcam and claimed he accidentally ran a script that wiped her hard drive and regretted doing so because he presumably wanted to watch her more. I remarkably still have some of these screenshots, but I'm not going to post them publicly as they contain personal information. I'm digging them up. I've also found a screen cap of a post from a neutral party outing the hacker in an IRC channel he hung out at. That entire post that I showed you earlier, where the hacker was apparently sitting on a Mibit IRC chat. So what's interesting is somebody has claimed to hijack the original person's download and release this malware. So while I couldn't confirm if the malware was sent out, this kind of obviously threw 4chaners into a bit of a pandemonium. For a brief period, 10 years ago, there was one game running around that apparently claimed to steal actual bank accounts from 4chaners. So what about the original game and the original developer? Well, this is where a actual Reddit account ended up popping up 4 months ago discussing when an entire post was made called "I found Lostboy.EXE finally." And inside this post, an account known as 291837120 kicked in, where they actually showcased, "I purposefully made it to incite intrigue. It's unsolvable." Yeah, the images you see around aren't meant to be solved. This crazy puzzle is something that people would rack their brains around, and not knowing that there wasn't actually any rhyme or reason to it. It made as much reason as LSD Dream Emulator. Basically, the whole gist with Lostboy.EXE was to spread with people trying to solve unsolvable puzzles, giving it to their friends who in turn can't solve it. It's more of a prototype cognito hazard than a game. All the stuff that came afterwards with the rat mythology made it a lot more potent. I put out the story and killed the mystery so people don't go mad trying to figure it out. And here they actually wrote, "It wasn't originally a rat. I made it as soon as Slenderman game came out in 2012 and wanted to create something so spooky, too spooky for you. It would spread like wildfire." Sadly, it didn't. It sat in obscurity, and it wasn't until like Felled Up, me, and a bunch of other people now are looking at it 10 years later that it's become a massive topic. Up until this point, it was kind of just sitting on 4chan iceberg charts, just kind of in the corner, just as like that obscure point of history that nobody really looked into. I did, and someone replaced the link I was posting with their own, which was a rat. There's a ton more on the story that I've posted around before and on my Twitter. It's quite literally just a reskin Doom tutorial for Game Maker 7. Game Maker 7, for those of you who don't know what it is, was used to be like this old school like freeware game engine that one could just download and create like standard like first person shooters in. I ended up playing around with this when I was younger as a kid too, but yeah, this is one of those like free game maker tools that one could just download, make 2D titles in, but for a while you could actually make like a pretty competent first person shooter in. It wouldn't be anything special, but it was just something people downloaded and basically created a bunch of freeware games, spread it on random freeware websites, and that was effectively the game engine that powered Lostboy.EXE. Now, throughout researching this video, I've downloaded like 7 or 8 different versions of Lost Boy from like different actual like sites, different download links, and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, I don't believe I actually have the original RAT file sitting on my system, so that still, to this day, remains lost media. But what doesn't remain lost media is decompiling this actual Lost Boy game. And so when you decompile it and put it into the actual game maker development, you can actually see that it's got a map here where like words like swag are written, and you can actually see all the images laid out. So you don't even have to play the game anymore, it's just sitting right there. I do, however, recommend, if you're safe, giving the game a try just to experience that 4chan like 2012, too spooky for you era is actually absolutely worth it. Again, if you are going to play any version of Lostboy.exe, play it at your own risk. The account here is Rob is an idiot. This guy is an idiot purveyor of goods. And of course, Rob, for those of you who don't know, is the guy over here who basically said that was his creation from over a decade ago. And it looks like you guys enjoy it. And to be honest, as far as 4chan, like little horror mysteries go, this one is actually quite fun to look into, okay? And I'm glad that finally I got to actually play the game that I saw years ago on an iceberg chart. And of course, he does definitely say, I made Lost Boy back in 2012, shared it with the 4chan V-board, and it was a Game Maker 7 tutorial reskinned. There was never any other version. The virus Lostboy.exe was just a rat virus, not a game. All they did was rename their EXE to this guy, and nobody really knows exactly. Some people got to play the original game, some people just didn't. And for a while, if nobody could dig up some of those old school 4chan threads, this might have been lost forever to time. So it's something with a crazy deep story behind it, not so much the game, but actually the piece of malware behind it. So I guess this is a perfect example of just make sure you don't just randomly download games and run them on your system. Because in certain cases, especially if it's an image board like 4chan, there's probably a 99% chance somebody comes in and sends a remote access Trojan, which of course, moral of the story, will fuck your shit right up. So yeah, this is a fun little story of Lostboy.exe, a game that I thought was lost forever, but it's here. It exists, it's downloadable, and one game that was actually used to socially engineer a remote access Trojan, allegedly, into the computers of tons of channers around the world. So ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you believe the stories of bank accounts being hacked and people being blackmailed and all this wild, crazy shit? Honestly, the story of the Avast forum that we read earlier, literally dating around the time of release, at least showcases that this whole remote access Trojan story happened in just really fast. So basically, if this game was released within like days, even weeks, there was actually somebody spreading a piece of malware through this one obscure video game. Why they immediately latched onto it could just be more than mere coincidence, I'm not entirely sure. But whatever I learned here is that in this span of time, there was a few 4chaners that got hacked from, again, an obscure, nonsensical video game that was released. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of Lostboy.exe. Frankly, the mystery has been solved, and there's a lot of channels that I want to hit up, of course, definitely filled up. Check his video out for sure if you can understand the French language. If not, I'm sure there's a great summary on it too. Check out Saint if you want to hear some of the wildest or see some of the wildest obscure games out there. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the 4chan mystery put to bed. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.